Look closely. You might see chaos, but every corpse, every curse, every tick of damage is a gear in a relentless machine. A machine designed to prove one simple, controversial truth. There is no such thing as a fair fight. They will tell you that power is a number, a boring, predictable strike. They are wrong. That is not power. That is a tantrum. Loud, messy, unsophisticated. True power is the equation you solve before the fight even begins. It is the quiet, creeping decay that your enemies don't even feel, until it is far too late. What you are witnessing is not a battle. It is a cascade, a mathematical certainty. And we are here to teach you the formula.
Sorry you caught me sipping a fine glass of blood. I'm just trying to sound cool. It's high C. Still really good. What's up, my glorious Necromanders? It's your boy Grief, and the time is finally upon us. The Season 9 build guide. And maybe you've been a little bit confused about what you've been seeing me post as far as pit clears go. Because by the Season 9 PTR, we jumped in with an overpower build, just the same way as we ran the Severed Veins build in Season 8, and we were able to clear up to pit 93. All seemed to be going pretty well until the patch notes, when overpower was nerfed into the ground fully. Completely gutted. Now, like I said, I'd gone into the PTR with high hopes for overpower Sever. Running Ahu Zan for another season didn't seem like exactly what I wanted to do, but it seemed like it would be the best thing to do, until it wasn't. No. But for those of you who are paying attention, you probably also noticed toward the end of the PTR, the old Griefy boy had a plan. Posted a clear on Blighted Corpse Explosion. Didn't really say much about it, but that was the beginning of the plan. And that's the build we're looking at today. Severed Ties Necromancer. A Sever-fueled Shadowblight build, supplying some of the biggest damage we've seen from Sever. And some of the people out there have the nerve to say, it's not a Sever build because it's running Shadowblight. Was it not a Sever build when it was running Rathma's Vigor? It's a key passive. It's a shadow skill. It's a key passive meant for shadow skills. It's a Sever build. And probably the best Sever build. As of this recording, the build is cleared 105 in the pit on unfinished gear, so there's lots of potential to go even further. Now, some of you might be saying to yourselves, well, why wouldn't I just run the regular Shadowblight crit build that's posting 110 clears in the pit right now?
What are you talking about?
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
As always, before we get into it, let me give a short disclaimer. First of all, if you're one of the poors who doesn't own the Vessel of Hatred expansion, then I apologize. You won't be able to run this build.
Get out of here, man.
I'm just kidding. But you really won't be able to run this build. I'm sorry. And second, as I say every season, to anyone who thinks you're just going to come in here and plug this stuff into your character and suddenly you're jumping into pit 100 like your goddamn Bruce Willis, Chuck Norris, Muhammad Ali, it's not happening. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some dedication. You're going to need to find everything necessary to make the build function, but it doesn't take very long to get online. You have my word on that. Think about it. I was posting 100 clears within a couple days of the season launch, so it won't be that tough for you. You're just as good as I am. And as always, I'm here to help you. Let's get to work and take a look at the hardware. Now, every piece in this build has been carefully selected to serve one purpose: to set up and amplify some extremely powerful cataclysmic Shadowblight detonations. Yes. You're going to want to pay close attention because we're doing a lot of things differently this season, and placement here is crucial. I'm going to show you my current setup on the right, and then on the left you'll have best in slot that I think is reasonably obtainable. Obviously, if you can do better than what I show, you're the greatest. Congratulations. And on this build, the heart of the entire build is actually the amulet, running the aspect of decay. This is the nuke. This is what is enabling us to put out the damage we're putting out, of course layered underneath by a lot of other things which we'll get to, but I feel like this was worth covering first. The affixes you're going to want on your amulet are going to be Intelligence, Coalesce Blood, and Amplified Damage. I actually have not the best in slot, as you can see on the left. We're running what we found. You would actually like this flipped, have the Coalesce Blood be your GA, and then roll your Amplified Damage, but since this is what we have, it is likely this is what I'll be running all season, and that's fine. If you're lucky enough to get a 3 GA, you're popular, you're cool, everybody likes you, you've got even better high C than I have, and you're having a great time. If you don't have that, any variation of this amulet will work. Just make sure that you're landing these passives and masterworking them, as I said, focusing fully on Coalesce Blood. For your tempering, shadow damage is what I recommend, and you're really interested in this mainly to get your Shadowblight bonus up to 450%. Once you do that, you can safely do something else like crit damage or vuln damage, which is easier to roll if you feel like there's a danger of bricking your gear. To be honest with you, I have done everything you see on the screen, and I have not bricked very many things. I think maybe 2 pieces. But if you're not a fan of bricking gear and starting all over, you may want to take my advice, get your 450% bonus, and then move on to maybe crit damage or vuln damage. It may just be a safer choice for you. On the second tempering on your amulet, you're looking for cooldown reduction. And the reason here is when you are in the boss room or outside of the pit in general, and you're not getting that instant cooldown reset, you're going to need to get that cooldown going as quick as possible. So we're going to put as much as we can into Soul Rift to start with a low cooldown, and then this cooldown reduction is going to bring it down even more. So we want as much uptime on bosses or any content that's not resetting that cooldown instantly, so that you can have these instances from corrupting damage that Soul Rift is going to also supply, and then everything else that comes along with it. For all of our jewelry, we are going to be running Horadric gems in all of the 3 slots. On this one, we're running Idle from Below. This is giving you 6% max life, 6% intelligence, and also giving you Unhindered, which is huge in the pit, because when you're trying to run around collecting groups, they're not stopping you as you pass by them. So this makes things move a lot faster, and also because we're running Blood Begets Blood, which we'll get to, it helps you to pick up those orbs faster because nothing's getting in your way. Moving on to the sword. If we're being honest about the amulet, it does nothing without damage coming from below to feed it, so that the multiplier is getting fed the highest damage possible to slap that nuke. The affixes you're going to want here are Intelligence, Max Life, and then probably crit damage would be best. I was lucky enough to be gifted a sword that had vuln damage. I'm just happy to have a 3 GA, so I'm not going to complain. And really with Sever, we have pretty much 100% uptime on vuln, so we're not really worried about that. It's a great additive to have. And then again on the tempering, you can see that I ran shadow damage, and we're running Finality. Now, as you probably know, in previous seasons, I was a huge proponent of Titan's Fall. The problem is Titan's Fall has been nerfed a bit. Now, some people may think it was buffed because you no longer have to be fortified, but for Necromancer being so easy to fortify, we were always fortified. So really all it does with us is take away some damage, and that's costing us time in pits, and Finality is going to make up that time for you. On our rune word, you can see we are running Ahu still, but we've switched it up to Cax. And some people have asked, isn't that a problem with essence generation? Not at all. You can run this easily, as you will see on our gloves later on. We are getting lucky hit chance to restore essence from there, and with all these instances of damage going on, all these ticks going on from corrupting damage, it is resetting your cooldowns. It is giving you that resource way more than I think in previous seasons with the overpower build that we were running, and it's really not a problem. I haven't run into any time where I felt like, oh no, I don't have any. And even if you didn't, a couple hits of Reap and you'll be back in the game, so don't worry so much about that. Cax is the way to go. If you're not comfortable with Cax, you could run Ohm, you could run something else. You're just probably not going to get up above Pit 100 without running Cax. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel. For your GA priorities, as I said, I think you could probably at least get a 2 GA on this. You would get Max Life and Intelligence, and then roll your additive damage on whatever damage you think is great. Crit might be what you go with. Like I said, Vuln would be a safe bet. If you landed on a 3 GA with regular damage, you would still be fine. Masterworking priority is going to be Finality. You want everything you can to get as much out of that multiplier as possible. And now we can move on to the gloves. Here, I think the best way to think about these is these are your pull. Your gloves are 100% giving you everything you need for that awesome pull that you need in the pit to get as many enemies as possible together. So of course, on the aspect, we're running Grasping Veins. This turns Corpse Tendrils into our primary setup tool, pulling enemies together and giving us a boost to our critical strike chance as well as critical strike damage. If we can keep this up all the time, it is basically a 50% multiplier and can keep us at 100% critical strike chance. And this ensures that our Shadowblight detonations we just talked about are getting the most damage we can possibly pump into them. The affixes here are non-negotiable. And actually, the desirable setup will closely reflect my own. You want intelligence and attack speed as GAs, and then on the resource generation, a GA is not going to hurt you, but it isn't necessary. As you can see, I'm not running it, and I get by just fine. I have no problems with essence generation, like I said, and I was lucky enough to roll max on this. Even if you didn't, it would be fine. On the tempering on the gloves, we're going again with shadow damage. Keep in mind what I've been saying all along. And then for your second utility temper, you want to use Corpse Tendril size. Ideally, you would like the highest roll you can get, but I don't like taking chances, so once I land it, I'm running with what I got, and usually it's enough to pull a room together pretty easily. For your masterworking focus, of course, you can see here, you're going to want to get everything into attack speed. And the reason I do this is it gets it out of the way on the gloves, and then you have a little bit to play with on your rings. Because if you're not able to get both rings identical the way you need them, you still have a little bit of leeway because you've got this triple crit on attack speed here. You're reaching for a breakpoint of 90.8. I pretty much say 91% is what I go for. Anything above that, thanks to Dam for letting me know for sure, without a doubt, is a waste. Of course, Corpse Explosion makes it a little bit guessy, but don't go much over 91%. You're just wasting your time, unless, of course, we're talking about Enhanced Reap and 30% and going above and beyond, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. And now for the old pantaloons. We are running Blood Moon Breaches. I've had people on Reddit ask me why we want to run these. Aren't we wasting some affixes with the summons and all of that? Not really. If you think about it in terms of what we used to be able to do in previous seasons when you could run Exploiter's Aspect or Concussive Strikes or something like that in a utility slot, it was able to get you some more damage. Now, since they've done away with that, the only real way to get damage in a slot like this is through Blood Moon Breaches, or in this case, would actually work this season, Tybalt's Will. Since Blood Moon Breaches is more damage, that's what we're running. But if you were not running as high tier of pits as I am, and you wanted to run Tybalt's, you could do that. That would be just fine. It would give you a little more survivability. It would give you a little bit better resource generation and stuff like that. Your management would be easier there. And also, too, it's worth mentioning, you could run Legendary with maybe Hardened Bones or something like that, or Cursed Aura, and then do away with Watt, and you could run Thule, or you could run Ohm, and you could run Neo or Igni to fuel those, and then that would actually give you the possibility of running an armor temper and an armor affix to make it easier to hit armor cap. That being said, I'm probably going to end up adding an endgame variant on Maxroll and Mobalytics, so keep an eye out for that if you're running endgame, and don't fret too much if you don't want to wear these or the other unique pants, because it's not 100% necessary unless you're pushing, I would say, above pit 90 to 100, somewhere in that realm. You're going to notice that the damage is not enough. So back to the breaches. Critical strike chance is really the only GA you need. If you do get the GA, a double GA on curse skills, great. If you find a 4 GA that you can get with a 50% aspect roll, good for you. But just do not give up the aspect roll for GAs. You want max aspect roll here. You want that 50%. It's necessary if you are pushing high in the pits. For your masterworking here, you're just going to go ahead and hit that critical strike chance as hard as possible. It's just going to make it easier for you to reach 100% without juggling around with other pieces of gear. In the gem slots, of course, we're running Topaz, getting as much intelligence pumped into the build as we can, especially considering we're running Idol from Below that I previously mentioned. Moving on to the boots. Greaves of the Empty Tomb back once again, of course, because we're running Sever. Now, this season is going to be completely different from anything you've ever seen from me as far as these boots go. We don't care about movement speed. We don't care about Sever size. We don't care about chance to deal double damage. We do care about the damage reduction. Grief cares about damage reduction? Don't tell Final. you want that damage reduction. This season, because we've lost our barrier on Soul Rift, even though we've got Necrotic Fortitude and some other little tricks we're using in the skill tree, which I'll show you, to try to get more survivability, this damage reduction is actually pretty big. So if you can hit this on a triple crit on a GA, it's really going to help you out and give you that tankiness that you come to expect. On the aspect, you don't really care so much about getting max on this. Obviously, and this goes to the GAs as well, if you hit those other GAs, the size is going to help a little bit, the double damage is going to help a little bit, but since we're not building into Sever itself, we don't really care so much. But again, all damage is good damage, so you'll take it if you got it. The main thing here on the aspect is that it is leaving desecrated ground, and contrary to popular opinion, desecrated ground from Greaves of the Empty Tomb is stacking. Now, there could be a caveat there if you're running Reaping Lotus, but since we are not, it's stacking and it's working. So keep that in mind. Keep that Sever spam going to keep that desecrated ground planted all over, just getting as many instances of shadow damage going as you possibly can to just keep the Shadowblight engine running. You do not want to stop it. You want to keep it going until everybody's dead and the entire room falls silent. Next, we'll move on to the mythics. Now, I believe they're mandatory. You can fool around with maybe Godslayer Crown on this helmet. You can fool around with possibly Unmaker. You could run Crown of Lucian if you wanted to. You can do a few other things. But to me, Heir of Perdition is going to continue to be best in slot simply because of the big critical strike chance, the fact that we want really high lucky hit chance. The core skills not as important this season, and then of course the 60% multiplier on damage. It's hard to beat, so that's what I'm running here. And on our rune words, as you can see, we are running Igni Watt. Now the thing I like about Igni on Watt is that you can cast an empty Corpse Explosion or an empty Grasping Veins, and it's basically like casting Decrepify if we're on your skill bar. This is great for grouping, which I'll talk about when we get to the gameplay section and loop section, but overall, what you're going to want to do here is get a GA on lucky hit chance. I landed on crit strike chance. Best in slot is going to be crit strike chance and lucky hit chance, but your masterworking focus will actually be on lucky hit chance. Like I said, a GA on crit strike chances is going to make hitting that 100% even easier. So if you get that, great, good for you, you're a winner. Which brings us to the Shroud of False Death. Now, in my opinion, this is the best item in the game. +1 to every passive. I've said it before, it's so valuable that it's hard to quantify. You have passives that are giving you damage. You have passives that are giving you damage reduction. You have passives that are doing so many different things. And then you have passives that you're not putting points into that are still helping you. When you get this piece and put it on, you will notice a large difference from when you do not have it on. So, in this case, for the build the way it exists this season, max life not as important. I got lucky with this 2 GA. I can't believe my luck on this. 1 GA on all stats would be fine. Best in slot, probably what I'm wearing, but of course a GA on resource generation isn't going to hurt things. In the gem slots, you're going to run Topaz, and your masterworking focus is going to be on all stats. You want to pump up intelligence as much as you can so that Idol from below is giving you that 6% boost to something that's a larger number. And then of course, what I consider to be the foundation, you have the rings. Now, both rings, I think the affixes will be identical. You're going to want intelligence, you're going to want max life, and you're going to want attack speed. My recommendation would be a double GA, intelligence and attack speed on both, but like I mentioned before, if you don't get that, you can still likely make your attack speed breakpoint work with the proper masterworking. You may have to triple crit on one of the rings, maybe double crit on one. You're going to get a little less intelligence. If you run it the way that I run it, currently on my 105, I am at the attack speed breakpoint. On this ring, for instance, I've got 1 into max life. I could hit this double on attack speed and then 1 into intelligence here, and then on the other ring you can see I'm running 1 into intelligence, 1 into attack speed. So here I could actually run 2 into intelligence, or I could triple crit intelligence here. I could triple crit attack speed on the other one and still get the same result. So do the math however you like, but your goal is to reach that attack speed breakpoint and dump the rest of it into intelligence. Tempering is going to be the same on each ring. You're going to run shadow damage. You're going to run that ultimate cooldown reduction for the same reason that we talked about. And then for the aspects, as you can see here, you're going to run sacrificial for all that dipping on those sacrifice bonuses. And then you're going to run aspect of the damned for a multiplier that's going to give give you 55% on all targets because pretty much all targets are cursed. For the gems, we're running the Horadrics again, so you're running the elemental one that is going to give you the catalytic skills, dealing 33% weapon damage of your infusion's element, which in our case is shadow damage, over 3 seconds. This is just another instance of shadow damage that you're going to have that's going to help set off that Shadowblight, as far as I know. Did I test it in the room? No, because I live in the pit, but I think it works. And then on the other ring, you're going... Ooh! And then on the other ring... what the fuck is wrong with me? On the other ring, you're going to run the Scornful Light, which is going to give you 20% more elemental damage, and of course make you take 10% more elemental damage. Don't worry about it, you'll be fine. And that's it for the gear. So before we take a look at the skill tree, I'm going to take off my shirt. Don't. Not this time. We're not doing it. Take a sip of high C and cool off. I'm going to take off my shirt so that we can see just the passives as they exist with the skills we have into them without the Shroud of False Death confusing things for you. So I'll take that off. Whoop. And we will take a look at our skill tree. One of the main things that I like about this build is that everything that I'm doing has a purpose. Right down to the first 2 basic skills that we're choosing to unlock the core tree. We are running Reap and Enhanced Reap. Now, this may take some getting used to. It is a little clunky at first, but with Enhanced Reap, when you see an enemy about to die, if you throw one in there and hit them with it, when they die, you're going to get a 30% attack speed boost for, I believe, 6 seconds. This is actually pretty big because it will put you over to the next attack speed breakpoint, which just means more damage. And that's all we care about. Damage, damage, damage. Who cares if we die? We're going to kill everybody. I'm just kidding. I don't want to die. This is also unlocking our next little section of the skill tree, which is your core skill section, and we are putting 3 points into Hewed Flesh. And there are multiple reasons that we're doing this. We're doing this for one, we want to have corpses all over the place because we are running Gravekeeper. We want to keep that satisfied. And also, two, because we have Flesh Eater, and we want Blighted Corpse Explosion going off all over the place to proc that, but also because Corpse Explosion is huge in giving us more Shadowblight instances and setting off those detonations even more so. A lot of the top clears running Shadowblight are relying mostly on Blighted Corpse Explosion, and your boy Grief was doing that in the PTR. Next up is the obligatory Blight. You have to have it because it's giving you a 20% multiplier. You're putting 3 points in to get to Supernatural Blight and another darkness skill on your bar, which we'll talk about later. Sever. Now, this is our main skill, undeniable. It is my favorite skill. It is super fun to play. It's fast. It's great. It's awesome. But in this case, we don't care so much about its damage. We want that desecrated ground that it's giving us through Greaves of the Empty Tomb. So we are not putting points in here. We're getting 1 point there and then working our way down to Paranormal Sever because we want to make enemies vulnerable and we want to fear them for amplified damage. And this brings us down to the Macabre section, the Corpse section. We are running 3 points into Necrotic Fortitude, Titan's Fall, and Spiked Armor. Necrotic Fortitude is worth mentioning because this is how we're getting some barrier uptime with the loss of barrier on Soul Rift. So keep that in mind. That one is not negotiable. If you don't put these points in, you're going to suffer because you're not going to have a barrier and you're going to be dead all the time. Corpse Explosion, 3 points here. You're going to Blighted Corpse Explosion, of course, another darkness skill on the bar, and like I said, a way to feed that Shadowblight engine. Fueled by death because we're popping these corpses off all day long. Why wouldn't we grab this? So 3 points there. Again, I'm not going to mention the extra point to all the passives. Everything you see here is 3 would be 4, 2 would be 3, blah, 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 0 would be 1. Keep that in mind. Death's Embrace, we're grabbing this because we want as much damage reduction as possible, and of course, doing more damage is great as well. Amplified damage. Again, this was our core target for masterworking and GAs in the past. This season, it takes a backseat, but it is still important. So get 3 points in here, get 1 point into Decrepify, and then go down and unlock Abhorrent Decrepify because while we're running WoT, we're getting Horrid and Abhorrent Decrepify. And with Horrid, usually this is great because it's giving you that execute. We're getting a better execute through our Horadric spell and our Arcana, which we'll talk about soon. But if that were to miss somehow, you're still going, what am I getting stuff for? What am I doing? What's happening? People are killing things around me. I hope nobody bothers us here. This is a nice, quiet little meditative spot. Again, Horrid Decrepify is still nice to have through WAP because, like I said, if you were to miss your execute somehow and that enemy was at 10, they're still dead no matter what. Moving on to the second tier of your Corpse and Macabre skills, we are looking to get our Corpse Tendies, and we want to get them all the way up to Blighted so that we can make Blood Orbs to feed our Blood Begets Blood board. We'll talk about that in a bit. Coalesce Blood, the star of the show this season as far as passives go. You're going to want to get as much as you can in here. Again, GA would be great. Triple crit that Masterworking on your amulet and get this up as high as possible. I've got it at 9, 10 with the Shroud of False Death. And then over here, we are putting 3 into Reaper's Pursuit, 3 into Gloom. I know a lot of the other Shadowblight crit builds are not running Gloom. They're putting the points into Crippling Darkness. I'm just going to go with the 1 point from Shroud on Crippling Darkness. I've got 3 points into Gloom. I've got 3 points into Terror. And I don't know if this serves me better because I'm running Sever and it's boosting that damage a little bit. I'm not sure why, but when I swap between the two, I do better in the pit with points into Gloom. That could change. We'll see what happens. But as of right now, that's the way I'm running it. And then I have 1 point into Necrotic Carapace. And then moving down to our ultimate tier, you have Finality. Very important this season. The opposite of last season. I think you want this over Titan's Fall. I have tested it over and over, and it just performs better for reasons that I mentioned earlier. Memento Mori and Standalone getting 3 points each. And then on Soul Rift, important here, do not skimp. Put 5 points in because that is lowering your cooldown. So when you have a lower cooldown to start with, that cooldown reduction will give you a better chance at getting this thing up faster. So we're starting off with everything we have into it, 26 seconds or so, and then give your Decrepify and all that a chance to work. And this will be back up before you know it when you're fighting against bosses and in other content, like I mentioned, that's not giving you an instant reset like the pit. You will be happy to have these 5 points in. And also, too, you will be getting some potions out of this, which are nice because especially in the boss fights, if you're struggling and you're drinking those potions over and over, it's nice to just have them filling up in the background. So we are running Supreme Soul Rift, go all the way out on that. And then last but not least, Shadowblight, the key passive. Now, as I mentioned earlier, some people poo-poo on this, okay? It is a shadow key passive. It is meant for shadow builds. Sever is a shadow build. And although Sever in the past has always been considered to be like a crit hitter, you know, just overpower once you had Ahuzan, it doesn't mean that that's what it has to be. It's still hitting crits on Shadowblight. It is supplying the desecrated ground, just like Bloodwave, just like some of the other builds are doing. It is giving you the trigger for the bomb, the nuke. This key passive. Now, the bonus at the bottom, 450%. You are putting your tempers into shadow to get this to 450. And like I said, once you hit it, don't hit the microphone. Once you hit that bonus, you might consider not taking the chance of bricking on shadow damage. All of the values on the additives are pretty much evened out now, so it's not really an effect there as much as it is just on, is it a 1 of 3 or a 1 of 2 or a 1 of 4 that you're shooting for. On shadow damage, you're going for a 1 out of 3. On crit vuln, that's giving you a 2 out of 3. So it's just a little bit better gamble there. But again, Shadowblight is the main source of damage. I am pulling no punches here. I'm not trying to hide it. That's what I'm doing. Okay? It is a shadow key passive. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Be proud. Because it is actually nice to be running this while running a build that is completely centered around shadow damage with everything just working synergistically to be giving you constant damage to a constant performance upgrade across the board as you work your way through the pit. So I love it. Huge fan. Let's get into the Paragon board. I'm not going to go crazy going node by node and walking down the path with you. We're not doing that. We're just going to go over the board choices and the glyph choice. So starting with the... Who would have thought? Starting with the starter board. You're running Gravekeeper here. You can see the pathing. On the Senna Death board, you are running Sacrificial. Moving over here to Frailty, you are going to run Eliminator. When you get down here to Flesh Eater, you are going to run Abyssal. And, of course, once you get to Blood Begets Blood, you are going to run Essence. Now, the way that I've laid out the boards here was the way that I leveled with them. You may or may not like it. Feel free to swap them around. Feel free to look at other people's setups that are running Crit Shadowblight. I think any board setup would work on this, so mine may not be the best. I don't know. I think it's the best. Don't you? How dare you come in here and just insult me in such a way? I'm sorry. I try to be funny. I'm just weird. So, as you can see, I am not fully invested into Essence yet. I am only at 49. You can get this up a little bit higher here. You're going to want to get all those dex nodes on this board when it's all said and done. I'm still working my way up the Paragon, so this is where I'm at. And let's move on. Nothing more to see here. And of course, since we're playing seasonal content, we've got to talk about the seasonal mechanic. Now, this season, I originally wanted to run Celestial Surge. I think it's fun. I think it's awesome. It looks cool. It's just a really great thing. But the cooldown is just so high. And when you're pushing pits, you really need these Arcana mods going off like constant. You need that uptime. So it's just not an option. And once Oz explained it to me early in the PTR, it sounded kind of like, do I really want to do that? But to be honest with you, the positioning and the way this works is actually kind of fun. So I have no problem running Disintegrate here. If they did lower the cooldown on Celestial Surge, I might consider it. But for now, this is the way you're going to want to go with pit pushing. On the Arcana, you're going to want to run Tranquil Stone for the Unstoppable. You're going to want to run Bloody Charm so that you can get that Execute at 20 and 40% on the trash. You're going to want to run Fractured Core so that when those champions, those pesky champions, pop up in the pit, it doesn't really matter because once you hit them with this thing, Disintegrate, they're going to lose their damage resist auras and everybody's dead. So that's nice to have. And then, of course, for our Infusion, why would we not run Shadow? Because we need Shadow damage everywhere, and you're also getting some damage reduction from it, which is nice because, like I said, we need survivability this season. And obviously, as you can see here, you're going to want to upgrade everything fully to get the max benefit from it, of course. For our mercenary setup, we are doing the unthinkable. We're running Aldkin. He is so annoying. His voice lines are terrible. His voice seems louder than all the other mercenaries. But damn it, we need to run him. We have to. So let's look at the skills we're using with him. You're just going down the left side, basically. You want this Haunt, you're going to want Terrify, you're going to want Languish, and you're going to want Paranoia. You can basically see how that cascades and works out for you. It's really nice. He's a perfect fit here. It just sucks that he's so annoying. Try to be a father figure to the little guy. He's just wagging his tail all the time and saying annoying shit. For our reinforcement, we're running right here, our homeboy, the Fatback, the big boy. Running Bastion, and we want it popping off whenever we are injured. This is super helpful. Like I said, when we're suffering from not being as tanky, he helps save your life a bunch of times, and it's just nice to have this as a get-out-of-jail-free card at times. Is it Blood Mist? No, but it will help you stay alive, and since we're unhindered, kind of like Blood Mist, you know? That little barrier pops up and you can run around, having a good time. You're doing great. And if you've got all that down, I hope you wrote it all down. There will be a quiz. You're all set to pilot this thing. Have fun. I'll see you later.
What the hell?
I'm sorry, what? Oh, you don't know how. I'm just kidding. But let me tell you how. And what better place to talk about pit piloting than in the pit? So let's just go over what you would do if you were playing through the pit. Well, this fine pit footage plays in the background. First thing to consider is that you have the ability through Igni Watt to go ahead and blank cast on Corpse Explosion or Corpse Tendrils to basically throw down a Decrepify as you would if it were on your bar. This is important because you can do this while you are trying to maybe see a group of elites and you don't want them running off, so you throw that down on them and now they can't go anywhere. And while they're indisposed, you're able to then run off and get yourself some other guys' attention with some Reap or some Blight and get them to come back to the group with you. And then once you have this little gang of death going, you can go ahead and throw down Corpse Tendrils, some more Blight to get everybody in that pool, and then just spam Sever. Now, of course, while that's all going on, you're going to want to keep in mind that every once in a while, every 6 seconds or so, you're going to need to throw another Corpse Tendrils. You don't want to overdo it and make everybody unstoppable like I do, but you want to keep it up enough that you're getting that multiplier, getting that 100% crit strike chance in place, and then again, making sure you're throwing in those Corpse Explosions, not just for Flesh Eater, but also because, like I said before, they're helping you proc that Shadowblight as much as anything else is. So your Soul Rift, your Corpse Explosions, your Sever, the Desecrated Ground, even when you evade the Desecrated Ground, it's all helping you stack up more and more instances of Shadowblight. So just keep that in mind. That's the way to go. And then, of course, like I said before, a little bit clunky at first, but when you first start getting used to using Reap, you'll see what a benefit it is. As soon as you see these guys going low on health, you'll see me doing it here, throw in that Reap. Hit somebody with it, and when they die, you're going to notice that attack speed boost right away. It's 30%, it's huge, and as I said earlier, Dan just shared with me today, that's going to put you over the next breakpoint on attack speed. I forget what it was. I think it's like 126 or something, but it's going to get you to that point, and you're going to know right away, because when you start throwing those Severs out and hitting those corpse explosions, they're going to go off so much faster, and you're going to really tell the difference in how fast those health bars disintegrate. Speaking of disintegrate, you're going to want to use it like you see me doing just there. Use that line like a guillotine. Once those enemies are low in health, all you need to do is position yourself around the pack so that that line is hitting them, and that execute function is going to take them out of the equation. Now, on the trash, it's 40%, and on the elites, it's going to be 20%, and of course, on the boss, it's not doing anything. And like I mentioned before, if you miss or if you forget, not a huge deal, still kind of sucks, but not a huge deal, because they're still going to die at 10% because of your watt going on. And you can see through this footage that that curse is just hitting over and over and over. And keep in mind that the overflow on that trigger is just giving you more duration on the curse. So Igni Watt is clutch this season. If you follow what I'm telling you here and what you see on the screen, and if you watch my clears and just pick up on it, like I said, a little bit clunky at first, but once you get the hang of it, you're going to feel like a god among lice. You're going to mow down these guys in the pit, and when you get to the boss, the rotation stays pretty similar. And the beauty of this season, what I really like, because I was so sick of having to jump out of a pit when I saw a boss without ads, it's not necessarily hopeless. You can still win a boss fight without ads, especially with these little Jewel Guardian guys you see on the screen right now. They actually help a little bit, believe it or not. They're giving you the opportunity to maybe get a Reap going on, an enhanced Reap, get that 30% bonus to the attack speed, and also giving you more Blood Orbs. That's huge. Don't forget those Blood Orbs during the boss fights. That's a 50% multiplier. Even if you just got the boss without any ads, you can maybe get one. It's still a 10%, but this is where the ads come in handy, because you can see, like, Blood Orbs are everywhere when they're around. I mean, not as much as you see on the screen right now, but during the boss fight, you would still have a good amount. And that's the build from the ground up. Severed Ties is a complex machine, but once you get the rhythm of the rotation down, it's one of the most powerful and satisfying elite hunting engines I've ever designed, which you could hopefully see in that 105 footage, which I will also link at the end of this video if you haven't seen it already. Now, I'm curious to see how it performs for all of you. Let me know in the comments what pit tier you hit with it, or what off-meta build you're running this season, or even if it is meta. Who cares, right? Let me know how you're doing in the pit. Let me know how you're doing in life. Let me know how you're doing at work. I'm proud of you. I think you're going to get that promotion. As you guys know, if you've been around the channel, I do read and respond to all of the comments. It is one of the great things about having a smaller channel. You can afford to do that because it wouldn't take 6 million years to do so. And if this guide was helpful, you know the drill. A like is always appreciated, and subscribe if you'd like to see more deep dives into off-meta builds like this, along with other content that some of the other channels might be too scared to touch. We built this channel by only posting content. It's the only thing that I did. So everybody here who's commented or liked, subscribed, the 300 or so of you who have subscribed, did so because you enjoyed the content. And to me, that means the most. And let's be honest, here you have an in with a pit-pushing maniac who's putting together some of the craziest builds. Blighted Corpse Explosion before anyone else was. Plagued Corpse Explosion a few seasons ago. Last season, Hemorrhage. We're just doing crazy things all the time. And the content is quality. At least I think so. Quality. So get out there and make your friends ask, what the hell is that thing? As always, massive thanks to the Curse Call Collective, Aureus, O's, Final, Roach. These guys are some of the best blasters I've ever had the pleasure of playing with, and playing with them just helps you to be a better player, and they carry you sometimes too. Really appreciate it. Could not do what I do without them. I feel like a lot of the time I don't give enough credit, but I just want you guys to know that nothing that I do is possible without the guys that I mentioned, and a lot of other people too. This season has actually been one of the first seasons where I've gotten an insane amount of support from the community, and I can't tell you guys how much it means to me as a quintessential gamer dad with a wife and 3 kids who works full-time, supports the family on one income. It's crazy to me that I was able to do what I did in such a short amount of time this season, and it couldn't have happened without your help. So thanks to Getty for the boots, thanks to Butto for the sword, thanks to Season Trash for the pants, and thanks to Service for the gold and all the aspects that he helped me max out. Again, Could not have done it without all of you. And last but not least, a very special thanks to my counselor C for helping me architect this theory and execute it. And thanks to you for watching. It's your boy Grief, and I'll see you in the pit.